Good evening. Good evening. What's going on, Facebook world? Well, actually, let me say it again. Good evening. Good evening. What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. What's going on in your world? Happy Thursday to you. Shout outs to the YouTube world as well. I'm streaming live. I'm doing a simulcast on Facebook, of course, as well as YouTube right now. So I want to welcome everyone to this platform in which I created, I guess, about a year ago. And essentially, let me bring up my overlay so you can see what this platform is about. But welcome. I hope you've had an enjoyable day so far. And I'm not going to be on too long. I just want to share a couple insights. For those of you who know, for the past 22 years, I've been a plant-based personal training pioneer. I'm Charlotte's first plant-based and vegan personal trainer. I once owned the Body of Your Dreams personal training studio and Plant Fit Gym for 12 years in duration. So I once had a brick and mortar facility. I know what it's like to run a personal training studio and gym. Had that experience, and then I'd like to say God had other plans. And I started online as a weight loss expert. It's been 2.5 years now. I launched online in 2018, and basically it's been a great ride to transition from having a brick and mortar studio and gym to the online space has been great. I've got customers around the country. I've got a guy in India. So it's been a great journey. 22 years. This year marked 22 years. So I'm celebrating 22 years as a professional. I've been basically, if I had to sum up what I've done for 22 years in terms of contribution and service, I've dedicated my life's work has been dedicated to basically helping people achieve health, success. I like to say biological wealth. And I've done that through plant-based personal training, meditation and mindfulness training on the corporate level. I once worked with Merrill Lynch. I provided a few months of meditation and mindfulness training to a group of 47 financial advisors. And at the time, that office, they had managed over $500 million in assets. And currently that office of financial advisors, they manage $1 billion in assets. But I worked with them for about 2.5 months, and I helped them in the area of meditation and mindfulness training. So for 22 years, my whole journey has been about really helping people achieve biological wealth. I've always found it really fascinating and interesting, the biology we've been given. I call it God's biology because I didn't make my body and you didn't make yours. So anytime you're in this spacesuit, this vehicle that allows for you to travel through space, and we've been given this, marvelous central processing unit called the human brain, and we have these other organ systems, the liver, the kidneys, the gallbladder, the immune system, the lungs, the heart, the vascular system, and I think I may or may not have said the central nervous system. Anytime when you look at the body and you recognize the fact that our biology was made by omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent force, it's amazing. It's remarkable. And here's the thing. Science is still learning more and more about the human body. Like, I find myself on an annual basis, I'm learning so much about our biology, about what God has actually given us. And so for 22 years, I've been focused on helping people to realize their greater physical potential. I've been helping people become who they really want to be physically. So the reason why I'm going on live is to actually share some insights with you so that you can become who you really desire to be physically. So my topic tonight is really around weight loss, around obesity. And I'm not really going to talk about obesity and being overweight as so much as I'm going to talk about weight loss, fat loss, the fact that I've discovered in 22 years as a professional how easy it is to lose weight. And I don't just mean personally, I mean in working with people, whether that's one-on-one or working with people online where I'm not even training people, but because of what I know and what I've organized, people around the country and the one guy in India have been able to benefit from our plant-based metabolic weight loss plan. So what I want to share with you has to do with some insights pertaining to weight loss. So first and foremost, the number one thing that comes to mind is when it comes to weight loss, it's not a matter of whether or not you can lose weight. Let's say you're overweight. You know, some of you right now, you may have some body fat you want to lose. And this year has been a very different kind of year. That's what I call the title of this year is A Different Kind of Year. It's been a year of pivoting. It's been a year of surprises, the unexpected. It's been a year of some tragedies. It's been a year of where structures have been, everything has been traditional structures, whether it's in business or all the areas of human activity has been basically disrupted. So we've had to restructure existing structures. We've had to change the organization of existing organizations. And, you know, whatever amount of stability we had, there's been a greater level of instability. And so it lends itself, for those who are students of numerology, it lends itself to what the 4 universal year is all about. The 4 universal year in numerology, for those who are open and who study numerology, you know, we're in a universal year 4, 2020. And a 4 universal year is about the theme of organization, structure, and stability. Well, of course, if you have a universal year, there's a tendency of the opposite things happening that challenge organization, structure, and stability. So this has been a year of instability for a lot of people. And it doesn't mean everybody, but a lot of people, the masses, there's been some instability as relates to people's income. There's been some instability in the economy. And then at the same time, a lot of people have made money during these times in very unusual ways. So when we look at our bodies, our biology, the stress that so many people have experienced this year, so many people have gained weight, you know, during this period, especially during quarantine, especially back in the initial months, March, April, May, June, up until July, so many people gained weight. I think the expression, what is it, the quarantine 15? And even myself, I remember in March of this year, I had actually reached the point of having my summer look months before the summer. And I had gotten down to 188 pounds. And I hadn't been in the 180s since probably 2005 or 2006. And so here I am, 48 years young, approaching 49. My birthday was June 25th, 2020. I'm 49. Here I am, 48 years of age in March. I had gotten down to 188 pounds. My abdomen was exactly the way I wanted it to be for the first time in years. I mean, 8-pack, like ripped, shredded. I was so proud. And then this coronavirus comes about and just, you know, ruins the party. Gyms close. We all have to adapt. I'm like, you know, I'm basically um, spiritually saying F-bombs, just to be honest, like this is some BS. This is crazy. Because when they initially announced that there was going to be things were going to shut down, in my mind, I thought probably like most of us, most of you, oh, maybe a week. Because there was nothing that ever occurred that served as a precedent, a president. So you couldn't imagine, none of us could predict or imagine the extent to which things were going to change. Our lives were going to change, our lifestyle. So gym shut down. I'm thinking, oh, maybe a week, at most 2 weeks. In my mind, what I thought was one way actually turned into months. So ultimately, during that period, I had to make adjustments. I had to go from 2 workouts a day in the gym. Most days I would train twice a day, and eating very little processed foods. I'm talking about just my salads, my beans, my nuts and seeds. I was so regimented. Training twice a day, not dealing with any cravings. If I did have a snack, I allowed myself to have popcorn once a week. I wasn't even doing vegan burgers. I wasn't even doing Beyond Meat burgers. On occasion, I would do them maybe once a month. I was so strict, so regimented. And leading up to that, and during that time, I had trained my mind. I had trained up my subconscious. I had set my intention on my goal was to burn and release all excess body fat. That was my goal. So when I went into meditation, I would communicate that statement to my subconscious. I would embed that statement, which was, I am burning and releasing all excess body fat. And so I was dialed in. Not only was I programming my subconscious effectively using statements, that statement, but I also use pictures. I have a picture that I use that's my go-to image, because one of the things you got to understand is all weight loss first starts in your mind and your heart. It starts with a vision. It starts with your self-talk. It starts with an intention. So you have to program your beliefs. Before you can lose weight, you must be certain that you can. That's called a belief. You must be certain. So I understood that, because people always say mindset, but honestly, the greatest certainty you get is from your feelings, what you feel or emotionally accept as true. So I understood those things, and I went into my toolbox of knowledge and insights, and I started applying the best of what I knew about how to change my habits. And I knew the science. I understood that, hey, the more processed foods you eat, the more processed vegan foods you eat, the more inflammation and fat on your body. The more plant-based foods you eat, the less you crave vegan processed foods. And this applies to all processed foods, whether it's vegan or non-vegan processed foods. But because I've been plant-based and vegan for 32 years, I was eating some vegan processed foods. So as I got into this space, let me go back further. For the first time in my life, as early as 2014, my body took a turn. I was under enormous stress. I was forced to move out one of my brick and mortar locations that I had been in for a decade. Some new owners came in, purchased the building. They gave us 3 months. They say you could stay, but the rent's going to be double. Well, that was not something I could afford. So I went into survival mode. Instead of me going into prayer mode, I went into anxiety mode, and I started gaining weight. And it wasn't so much that I was eating poorly as so much that I had the stress, and I started seeing changes in my abdomen. Now, as I look back, I probably was snacking more than normal as well. So when 2014 summer came, I was under so much stress, and I also realized my daughter was about to go to college and start her first semester freshman year. So I was thinking about that, in terms of how I could support her. I had a car at the time that was costing me exorbitant amounts of money monthly. So I had all of this financial stress because I had a lot of expenses. It was personal expense, business expense. So to make a long story short, I wound up going to California. At the time, my son and mother were all together as a family, and we went to California in 2014. Well, I did not feel good about my body at that time because my abdomen area did not look right. So I'm in California, I'm in LA, I'm at Venice Beach, and to me, I'm definitely not looking like the me that I know. Because let me say this to you, all of us have a physical identity. If somebody's overweight, but they've once been in good shape, even if they gain weight or accumulate excess fat, they still have an identity of someone who's in better shape. Now, for people who've been overweight majority of their lives, they have what I would refer to as an overweight identity. And the reason why I know this is because I've trained people and got them in great shape. And even though BMI wise, body fat percentage wise, their body fat percentage was in a normal range, they were looking toned and muscular, they still called themselves fat when I asked them what they thought. So there is a such thing as your physical identity. So I say all that to say this. When I was in California, for the first time in my life, I didn't want to take pictures because I was not comfortable and I didn't like and I didn't enjoy and I wasn't turned on or excited or ecstatic about what I saw in the mirror. So in 2014, my body started to take a change, especially around the abdomen area. So flash forward, 2017 came. I went through a relationship change, a breakup, just all types of changes occurred. I launched, this was 2009, 2018. Yeah. Relationship change. I launched the Plant-Based Loser Challenge. Leading up to that launch, I had begun my weight loss journey at another level. Now in the fall 2017, I started, but I was still in the 200s. And so ultimately at my peak, probably, the year that I was letting go and releasing my last brick and mortar studio, I had gotten up to 218 pounds. 218 pounds, which is, that's overweight for me. I was overweight. I'm 5'9.5". 218 pounds on my frame. I had muscle, but also started accumulating abdominal belly fat, back fat, fat around my chin. It was just crazy. At that point, it was just like, I know I've got to make some serious changes. So flash forward to 2018. I think I had gotten at that point, by the spring of 2018, I had gotten to, I think I'm around 200 pounds, somewhere around 200 pounds. And then I remember getting under 200 pounds in 2019. So I was like 197, 196, 198, abdomen, six pack. Last summer, I'm referring to 2019, looking sharp, feeling good, taking pictures, posting on Instagram. I'm not saying all that to boast. I'm sharing with you the journey of someone who has been athletic and fit with a six pack majority of my life. I'm 49 years young. Most of my life, I've had a six pack. So for the first time in my life, for probably, 2014 up to about 2018, for about a 4-year period, I had no pack, I had no six pack. At least they were hiding. The muscles were hiding under fat and inflammation. Now, I started noticing some changes in my body. I saw the abdominal belly fat, but it brings other changes. I had tingling in my fingertips. So I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Am I on the verge of like pre-diabetes? Now, I never went to a doctor, but because of all the research I did, I knew what that meant. So I said, hold up, wait a minute. I'm not going to die early. Hell to the no. I said, no. And so I really dug deep spiritually. And I'll say this. Oftentimes being overweight is made to be about what you're eating. But if you go to the why behind the why, because most people know they need to exercise, most people know they need to eat right. What is eat right? Eat more plant-based foods. But it's really about the question of what's eating you. What's eating you? Not about what you're eating. That's the next level, the next layer. But underneath the surface, we're talking about inside your heart and mind. It's about what's eating you. So I had some things that in my personal life were eating me. It was personal and business. And so ultimately I knew I had to dig deep, make adjustments, make some changes, and I did. So I say all that to say, I went from 218 pounds being overweight for the first time in my life. And I didn't go from, I went up gradually. When I got in the personal training industry, I was 161 or 62 pounds. So my weight went up over time, but it was muscle weight. I went from 160 to 170 to 180 to 190. I mean, muscular, huge, to the point where, people were like, hey, do you compete? Guns, big arms, big back, big pecs. My neck even got bigger, like almost not as big as Mike Tyson's, but I remember there's a point where I used to squat and leg press like within a day and have 2 workouts a day. So I remember when I first got to 205, I still had a 6-pack, but my neck, my muscles were huge, my thighs, my butt, everything. I had more mass than I ever had. But after that, because of certain things started to happen in my personal life and just the stresses of business, I started accumulating more fat. So that's how I got to that 218 at some point. But ultimately, the way that I lost weight had to do with, number one, even when I was at 218, I knew deep down inside that I was not going to stay there. I never accepted it. I never tolerated remaining overweight. I knew I was going to make adjustments because my physical identity was such where if you ask, who are you physically? I asked myself, who am I physically? I'm a very fit, muscular man with a 6-pack. That was my identity. I was always that way as a kid. Through my teenage years, 20s, 30s, 40s, getting into the industry. So that was my identity. So I knew I was going to make a comeback. I was so hungry. I was so driven to make a comeback. So one of the weight loss insights I want to share is, if you are overweight or obese, you got to know how to take your pain and use your pain or the darkness that you're dealing with emotionally to your advantage. You got to harness your pain. You got to know how to I knew how to harness my pain. I knew how to turn that pain into hunger, fierce hunger. I'm talking about, like, there are times when I train, even to this day, I know what it's like to be a Navy SEAL. I'm not saying that my training is at the level of a Navy SEAL physically, but I know mentally, I know there are tools that I use that I've been using that Navy SEALs use. Like, Navy SEALs are trained in meditation. I've done research on the Navy SEALs. There's a book I studied by one of the Navy SEAL commanders. They're trained in breath training, controlling one's breathing so you control your nervous system and control your responses in certain situations. So I've always incorporated that in my training. So a lot of times people will ask me, have you ever been in the military? And I tell them, no, never. Because there's a certain way that you show up in order to become the person you really want to be. So when it comes to weight loss, it's a heart set and it's a mindset first, your heart. You have to be so hungry. It's not so much focusing on the emotional pain that you're overweight. Yeah, you could feel embarrassed. You could feel some sorrow. I remember having, during the time I was overweight, I remember getting like media opportunities where I was in a magazine and I was in another magazine. And I remember that one of the magazines I was in, they took pictures of me, and in the photo, it's obvious that I'm overweight. I'm like, I felt so embarrassed internally. No one really said anything. But the one person that had the courage, he had no filter to tell me that I was quote unquote fat. No one in my life ever referred to me in that manner. It was a shock. It was like somebody punched me psychically. My son, who is now 8, when he was about 4 or 5, he took his index finger and pushed it inside my navel area. And he could go back because there was so much fat around my abdomen. He could go back, and his index finger was inside of my navel. And he said, "Dad, you're fat," something to that effect. Can you imagine somebody who, from an identity standpoint, from a self-image standpoint, I'm one of the fittest personal trainers in Charlotte. There was a period where I remember coming to Charlotte in 1996. And in my mind, I said, I'm going to be the most fit, the sharpest, the most service-oriented, and the trainer that gets the greatest results for his clients. That was my mindset. It was like Michael Jordan, who was a personal trainer. That was how I thought. I used to study Michael Jordan. I used to study Muhammad Ali. I used to watch footage. I used to read books, because when I saw those guys, I said, the hunger I have, I can relate to them. So when my son said, "You're fat," no one ever referred to me as fat. And I remember that moment I made a decision that I was going to turn it around. It was just like it woke up a lion, the lion in me, the fierce lion in me. So I started taking whatever emotional pain I was dealing with, and I started harnessing that darkness, and I transformed it into immense hunger. And then I started speaking about make training twice a day. Before I even started training twice a day, people would say, "Hey, what's your routine?" Like I say, I'm in a process of training twice a day. Now, there was a point where I wasn't training twice a day, but I knew that was the standard. So I had to start speaking it, professing it. But I picked up a picture that I took in 2005, and I started using that as a programming device. And I looked at it every day during the workouts. I'm weighing 218 pounds. I can barely do 4 wide grip chin pull-ups with my body weight. And I'm looking at this picture in which I'm under 180, ripped up, cut, because I knew that if I once accomplished it, I could do it again. So one of the number one insights is this: if you're overweight right now, doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but what you see is a manifestation. It's not actually who you are physically. You've got to harness the darkness, the emotional pain, and decide that you're no longer going to tolerate remaining overweight. So it's the number one insight I can give you, because fat really represents feelings, attitudes, and thoughts. Feelings, attitudes, and thoughts that are not serving you. Feelings, attitudes, and thoughts that you're medicating with processed foods. So, number 2, insight. Once you are in this space where you feel fierce, where you feel hungry, where you feel determined, you go all out in your practice. You start listening to information that is about eating properly, eating the way. So I remember I started doing research on food addiction because I was a food addict. And if you're overweight right now, I'm talking to you, if you're overweight right now, you're overweight not because there's something intrinsically wrong with your body. You're overweight because you're a food addict. Food addiction is the number one obstacle that's preventing people who are overweight but want to lose weight from starting. It's food addiction. So I started studying food addiction. And one of the things I learned is that Big food, big food, the food companies whose products are calorie rich and processed, all of them have food scientists. They have food scientists who engineer their products to ensure that consumers come back for more. And as I started learning about what's really behind addiction and the role of how your brain in the release of dopamine, when you eat something that's sugary, something that's salty or fatty, they have studies which indicate using mice that mice, when given a food item that's salty, they'll travel a certain distance in order to get to it so they can consume it. They've taken these mice and they've given them something sugary. They'll travel a great distance to get to it, to consume it. They take food with these mice in these various studies. If it's a fatty, rich food, they'll travel great distances. But guess what they found out? When you combine sugar, salt, and oil or fat, the mice would travel great distances in order to get that fix, because the dopamine was being released in the brains, from the brains of those mice in a study, in the same way that it's released in humans, us. So I had to overcome food addiction. And what helped me was studying food addiction, because one of the things that it did for me was it made me realize that calorie rich and processed foods, which, the standard American diet, if we look at the country and ask, well, what do Americans eat? The USDA data, even as recent as August 2019, still indicates that Americans are consuming or deriving 56% of their calories from processed foods. So 56% of calories in the average American's diet are derived from processed foods. So when I started studying food addiction, it really helped me understand the role of the brain. But also I learned that when you're eating processed foods, even if you're vegans, because there's a lot of food addicts who are vegan, you could be a vegan and a food addict, because there's calorie rich and vegan processed foods. Potato chips are vegan. You get vegan potato chips and be hooked because they have oil, sugar, and salt. And that potato is fried in oil, which is fat. So whenever you have that three, that really hooks you, and you start craving those foods that are sugary, salty, or fatty, or sometimes having two, or sometimes having three. And what happens is you keep coming back for more, because at that point it's on automatic pilot. Even when you want to start eating better, when you're a food addict, the craving kicks in. And oftentimes, if you don't have the right foods available and your eating timing is off, you're going to give into those cravings. And so that's why people are in a vicious trap. Obesity and being overweight is such only because of food addiction. It's the real underlying problem. In fact, heart disease, the number one killer of Americans, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, even cancer, is diet related or diet induced, according to medicine and what they've been telling us for the past 30 years. Most or many forms of cancer are diet related. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, elevated blood serum triglycerides, abnormal cholesterol levels. I think I may or may not have mentioned high blood pressure. All of those medical conditions, or what's called medically metabolic syndrome conditions, all of them are because of the way we're treating our body. Eating is a treatment. And so calorie-rich processed foods and animal products are the reason why heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, elevated blood glucose, which leads to elevated insulin resistance, where, when insulin, or what they call hyperinsulinemia, when that kicks in, that means you've got excess fat build up in your liver, excess fat build up in your muscle tissue. And man, that creates a problem. I actually experienced that when I've gotten up to, 218 pounds, at 210, 211, everything in between. I had that going on. I had insulin resistance going on. And I knew something was different because my muscles weren't as hard. And I had this like fat that I could feel under the skin. And I said, man, it's like my whole system's changing. It was scary as hell, to be honest. So all of that you can reverse on a nutrient and fiber dense plant-based diet. And so the good thing is I was able to see, you can't exercise away that condition. You can work out all you want. If you have elevated blood sugar and insulin resistance, you can do a lot of exercise. It's still not going to undo that. It's not going to arrest and reverse it. You've got to get those plant-based nutrients and that the fiber and phytonutrient dense plant-based foods in your system at a high level. And you even have to start practicing intermittent fasting as well. So I learned a lot by studying food addiction. But I'll say this, food slavery is actually what's responsible for the epidemics of obesity and the chronic diseases which lead to premature death. Now, what most people don't know is, and I want to bring something on screen so you can see it. It's from Dr. Furman, Dr. Joel Furman. He's a medical doctor. And his statement right here is in reference to obesity or being overweight. He says, and he's a medical doctor, he's been in practice for well over 20 years. He's referring to obesity or being overweight. This is not just a cosmetic issue. Fat on the body is indicative of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer lurking within, if not now, then in a few years. So being overweight is not just a cosmetic issue. Yeah, on the surface it's cosmetic. It can feel embarrassing if you're overweight, especially if you aspire to look the way you once looked. It can feel embarrassing, It can feel embarrassing. And I think part of weight loss is emotional weight release. That's the most important component to fat loss. Like, it's really a journey of becoming who you really want to be. It's about, when we talk about fat, excess fat, overweight, obesity, it's what's eating the person, what's eating you emotionally. Are you ashamed? Are you dealing with shame? Are you dealing with sorrow? Are you dealing with a sense of powerlessness? Are you dealing with a sense of feeling stuck? Are you dealing with a sense of, you don't feel like you're being your greatest version because you're oppressed or suppressed? Whatever emotions are there, those emotions are being medicated with processed foods. So here again, fat represents certain feelings, attitudes, and thoughts that you're medicating with a calorie-rich and processed diet. And so the second insight has to do with your actions, your behaviors. You got to get free from food addiction. You got to get free from food addiction. How did I do it, and how do I help Plant-Based Loser Challenge customers do it? You got to adopt a whole foods, plant-based eating style. Now, most of you are not just going to wake up and do that because, one, you don't have enough science or information to understand the value of doing it. And two, you don't have a guideline. Because everybody says, oh, yeah, I know I need to eat more fruits and vegetables. Well, what does that look like as a guideline day to day? And how do you design it in a manner to deal with the existing hormonal imbalances you have? Because if you're overweight, but you want to lose weight, but you haven't begun losing weight or burning fat, it's because of, number one, according to what we know scientifically, all the evidence lets us know that being overweight is due to chronic inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and digestive issues in the gut, issues in the microbiome. So the reason why my Plant-Based Loser Challenge customers on day number one, the first day that they start eating from the plant-based metabolic weight loss plan, the reason why their metabolism immediately shifts into fat burning is because the nutrients, the micronutrient density, the fiber coming into their biology shifts their metabolism into a fat burning mode. You have to understand your body already knows what it needs. See, weight loss, well, overweight and obesity, these are easily solvable issues. Like our bodies know how to burn fat very well. Our bodies know how to store fat very well. Whether it's burning or storing fat depends on the conditions you create by your food intake primarily. Now, do emotions play a role? Does sleep play a role? Does inactivity or activity play a role? Of course it does. But what I've learned is outside of sleep, one of the biggest drivers is the food you eat. But here again, go to the why behind the why. It's like, well, what are you eating and why, and what's eating you? So I would tell people all the time, as I tell my clients, and I've been telling them for years, a part of weight loss is also healing. You have to begin the journey of cultivating inner peace. You're gonna have to go within. You're gonna have to resolve whatever issues you have within. Now, there's been some large-scale studies using questionnaires of tens of thousands of people in America where they ask people who are obese and overweight if they experience different types of trauma. And so what we now know is that most people who are obese and overweight are dealing with some form of childhood trauma, unresolved childhood trauma. Now, so either way, whether it's something from childhood or whether it's in addition to that that's unresolved, is in a background, you got modern day challenges or problems that you're confronting or dealing with or not dealing with. Either way is stress, emotional stress. And like I said, emotional stress or emotions of stress can come in the form of sorrow, shame. There's a variety of emotions that, in fact, can trigger the release of cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but it's also one of the fat storing hormones. So can you be in a certain emotional state and it trigger and put your system in a fat storage mode? Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, look at the word abs, absolutely. Cortisol receptors are in the abdominal area. So if your cortisol levels go up, they know scientifically in studies that when your cortisol levels go up, because of where the cortisol receptors are, they're located in the abdomen, you'll see abdominal belly fat go up. So is there a relationship between, being overweight or being obese in your emotions? That's the why behind the why. Fat, that's turned the word fat, F-A-T, into an acronym. Feelings, attitudes, and thoughts. Thoughts or beliefs, what you've accepted to be true or your reality. So it's important to work on weight loss at different levels, Because oftentimes it's been mainstream thought that someone's obese and overweight because they don't eat right and exercise. From an external standpoint, yes, but the question is, why are they not eating properly and why are they not exercising? So now we go into internal strategies. The internal factors, what are the internal factors? Where someone is emotionally in their feelings, how they feel about themselves, how they feel about life, how they feel about the relationships they have. Because sometimes people can be in toxic relationships and they're not experiencing love and connection. And when you're not experiencing love and connection, you're not releasing oxytocin. You're not releasing these molecules that actually, these are molecules of emotion that would actually make you feel well and healthy. And so if you're not in a healthy relationship, you'll use processed foods to release the dopamine so you don't feel the pain of those emotions as much. That's called medicating your emotions with food. So it's important, when you're on a weight loss journey, you're going to have to change even the external environment. There's going to be some things in your external environment that has to change. You want to make sure you're around or have people around you that are loving and supportive. And you want to make sure that you're loving. You're putting out that love energy, because love is an emotion. Joy is an emotion. Gratitude is an emotion. And these emotions I just named, gratitude, joy, love, these emotions have been measured in a scientific setting using various technologies. And they can measure the frequency of specific emotions, but not only that, they can also not only measure the energy, the frequency, the vibration of these emotions, which impact our body, because our biology, the atoms which make up our body are 99.99999% energy, light waves, and information, intelligence. So we're mostly energy, and the part that is physical actually only represents almost 1% of our total makeup. Although when we refer to our body, we think that most of our body is material. It only accounts for less than 1% of what's actually there. So emotions, your emotions, what emotional states, what emotions you generate on any given day, feelings, your attitudes, your thoughts, all of this influences your practices. Whether people oftentimes are not in motion, they're not exercising because they don't feel like it. Some people have lost their appetite for life. So they're working, but they're not going to do anything extra if they don't feel motivated. What motivates us? Emotions motivate us. What types of emotions? Hunger, the hunger to be, do, and have something, but when it relates to, becoming who you really want to be physically, the emotions are the drivers of the habit changes. You need a vision, you need to see a different possibility for yourself. And here's one thing that's really cool about losing weight. We have the weight loss potential stored in the cell. So it's not a question of whether or not you can lose the weight. That's not an issue for your body. It's a matter of activating the fat burning potential. So, your heart set, here's one of the insights. Your heart set, you must start generating gratitude. You need to start practicing generating gratitude, generating self-love. Do you know how to love yourself? Do you know how to be okay? Do you know how to feel like you're enough? Do you know how to feel joy? Do you know how to get lit up? Do you know how to turn you on, regardless of anybody else being around you? So that's one of the most powerful practices in the journey of weight loss. Like, you must be a generator of the kinds of emotions that you want to feel, because your emotions have the biggest influence on your biology. Your emotions affect your blood pressure. Your emotions affect your heart rate and your heart rate variability. Your emotions, generate and produce a chemistry of their own. which affect your blood vessels. So, and release certain hormones like cortisol. If you're feeling depressed, your body will generate or create or produce more cortisol if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling down. So, weight loss is an internal experience as much as an external experience. External strategies have to do with using the body. Like if you're eating, you have to pick up food and transport it to your mouth. That's what I mean by mechanical. Those are external strategies, or exercising and eating, because they both involve movement, mechanical movement of the body. But then the internal strategies are about how you go about changing your emotional states, your feelings about yourself, your body, and life. So fat is, the F in fat represents your feelings. And then when there's a feeling or emotional change, because you start to become a generator of emotions, elevated emotions, as Joe Dispenza calls them, and Tony Robbins refers to them as beautiful states. When you know how to get into an emotional space of love, when you know how to get into an emotional space of peace because you meditate, you know how to use your physiology in a way where you create brain and heart coherence. Once you can generate peace, once you can generate joy, once you can generate a sense that I'm okay and I'm enough, and you create boundaries with people, especially if they're toxic, take bull BS from people, then you can begin to give birth to a version of you that you feel good about. So weight loss is internal and weight loss is external. There's some things you need to do internally in terms of your heart set. Like, what emotions are you set on generating? That's our heart set. Do you intend to feel love for yourself and life and your body and the fact that you're alive? Can you generate that frequency where it goes through your body and you can feel it in your nervous system? That's what I mean by generating emotions. Love, joy, gratitude, passion. Can you feel passionate about the person who you really want to be physically? Everybody sets goals. Take it from me, personal trainer, 22 years, and I've worked with so many people who spent a lot of money, and some people have wasted money because they had goals, but their goals weren't backed by any passion. You got to have passion. You have to have hunger. You can't transform your body without passion, without hunger, without determination. And if you're in a dark space emotionally, you need to learn how to harness your dark side until you can get into the light. You might be feeling upset, disappointed. You might be angry for whatever reason. You gotta harness your anger. You gotta harness the fact that you let yourself down at some point, and you even have to let some people off the hook and own the fact that I'm the creator of my own reality. I'm the creator of my body, and you can't blame other people. You have to release that. You have to release the resentment, and you have to love yourself more. So if you want to learn how to love yourself more, check out Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Because it's important to understand the role of emotions, the role of feelings in your biology, in your health. So it's so important. And it plays a major role in weight loss. So I'm going to see what comments are here. Somebody said, hi there. Oh yeah, this year has been a year of chaos. Bernice, what's up, Bernice? I'm going to have to come see you soon. I'm going to have to get this really dope background from you. What's up, Bernice? Christina says hi. Oh, this year has been a year of chaos. It's been a year of chaos and a year of digging deep for peace, for stability, which is only going to come from the spirit. Chef TR. What's up, Chef TR? What's up, sister? Chef TR, Tasha Robinson. She is, on a personal level, I consider you my sister. On a professional level, this woman has the most delicious vegan clean cheesecake in the universe. Check out Chef TR. Her uncheesecake is the bomb. If you want to begin the process of eating plant-based, every now and then, I can tell you, take it from me, 32 years on a plant-based and vegan diet, yeah, I want treats sometime, but you can get treats that are whole food based, sweet, good for your body, and satisfy your palate's need for some sweetness. So check out Chef TR. Her uncheesecake is gourmet level. It looks good when you look at it. It's beautiful to look at. The texture is amazing. The level of sweetness is all whole food, plant-based. Check her out. In fact, Chef TR, for those of you who live in the Charlotte area, Chef TR is going to be in Charlotte, not next week, but the week after next. If you want some information about her products, leave a comment under this video, and I'll make sure I put some information in there. And if you're on right now, Chef TR, go ahead and post your website link so people can find you. And thanks for watching, folks. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for saying hello. But finally, one of the things I want to wrap up by saying is, look, and I did promise I was going to show some testimonials. Let's see what I can find. I have plenty on Instagram. If you go to the PlantBased Loser Challenge, follow me at PlantBased Loser Challenge on Instagram. Oh yeah. Yes, check her out. Christina, she says, I'll have to check out that cheesecake. For my birthday in August, I had vegan, gluten-free cake. Beautiful. That's smart. That's good. Hey, look, delicious without causing harm, right? And wow, what a difference. For once, a cake that did not bother my stomach. That's right. And was from a bakery in Ballantyne. So yeah, Christina, and for those of you who have just read this, you can still have dessert that's clean, that doesn't diminish or reduce your healthy gut flora. You see, when you put white sugar, white flour, cooked vegetable oils in the system on a regular basis, it's going to diminish or reduce your healthy gut flora. And in the process, if you're damaging and lowering your gut flora, we know over 70% of the immune response and the power of the immune system starts in the gut. So no wonder there's so many autoimmune issues and problems right now. So definitely check out Chef TR. I'll make sure that I leave a link so you all can check out Chef TR. Go to her website. Check out her uncheesecake. It's delicious. Any final comments? I just want to recap by saying that, weight loss first starts internally. And then you have to incorporate those practices that are external practices, such as a whole foods plant-based eating style. If you want help, of course, you can contact me. You can contact me and almost knock my mic down. You can contact me and I'll be glad to coach you in the initial 21 days and even beyond, because those who enroll in my Plant-Based Loser Challenge, it's a 21-day plant-based weight loss challenge. For those who enroll, I'm checking in with you on a weekly basis. There's a weigh-in schedule. And even after the 21 days are up, you're part of the Plant-Based Loser community. And I have a big special right now where, you can get $150 off, become or get a lifetime membership in the Plant-Based Loser community. It's normally $499 to enroll. It's just $349 right now. And if you go to, I'm trying to find something for you. If you go to Instagram, you'll find, let's see if I can bring a couple testimonials up. I know you need to probably get to bed, but I want to show you. Let's see. I'll bring up a testimonial or two or three. But essentially, let's see. Hold on for a second, folks. This is a guy who's an artist. He's a go-go artist, very talented go-go artist. He's taking go-go worldwide. King Lee. He dropped his first 20 pounds in 10 days. Can you all see that? Hold up. Okay, you can see right there. That's one of the testimonials. So if you go to Instagram, I have about 50 weight loss testimonials. And these are people that I don't train. Now, I did train King Lee. He was part of my plant-based personal training program. But the Plant-Based Loser Challenge is not a fitness challenge. It's folks around the country who are taking advantage and using my plant-based metabolic weight loss plan. And what it does is it immediately shifts your metabolism into a fat-burning mode. So, the cool thing about the Plant-Based Loser Challenge is it addresses those three reasons why folks who are overweight but haven't been able to lose weight. It actually addresses those issues, which are inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and digestive issues. I have a metabolic smoothie soup and tea for inflammation in the first 7 days. I have a metabolic smoothie soup and tea for hormone imbalance, days 8 through 14. And then days 15 through 21, I have a metabolic smoothie soup and tea for digestive issues. Why is it important to target those three areas? Because if you're overweight or obese, it's because of the food addiction, but the foods, the emphasis on calorie-rich and processed foods, animal products, and very little to no whole plant-based foods that are micronutrient and fiber dense. It creates chronic inflammation. Consuming calorie-rich and processed foods, mostly with animal products, it causes inflammation. It causes hormonal imbalance. It causes digestive issues. And once you have those three things going on, you're going to be in a metabolic situation that I refer to as waiting. Waiting is a term I coined, WEIGHTING, waiting. The metabolic state of progressive weight gain. If you notice, if you're overweight and have been overweight, you didn't gain weight overnight or in 1 week or 2 weeks. If you're 20 pounds overweight, 15 pounds overweight, 30 pounds overweight, 40 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, 200 pounds overweight, it was gradual. So once your metabolism is in a state of progressive weight gain, I refer to that as waiting. How do you arrest and reverse, or how do you stop waiting? How do you stop waiting? I know it's a play on words, but this is going on with most Americans. Because if you're overweight right now, you don't have the proper nutritional intervention, you're going to remain in a state of progressive weight gain that I refer to as waiting. Okay, so my plant-based metabolic weight loss plan immediately shifts my customers' biology, their metabolism, into a fat-burning state. So much so that in the first day, if you started day one and weighed yourself the following day and you were overweight, BMI over 30, you would drop a minimum of 1 pound of fat, guaranteed. That's just, again, go to Instagram and you'll see all of the weight loss testimonials. And so let me bring up one more person, or maybe a few more. We'll see. Okay, did I bring up this gentleman? Okay, Desmond. He dropped 20 pounds in 21 days. This is another Plant-Based Loser Challenge weight loss testimonial. So, I'm not going to show, I don't think I'm going to show. Now, the women are probably saying, the ladies are probably saying, what about the women? Because some women, take it from me, 22 years personal training, a lot of women falsely believe that it's easier for men to lose weight than it is for women to lose weight. Well, tell that to Kaya Bay. She would disagree with that. Kaya Bay, she did or participated in my 21-day plant-based weight loss challenge 2 times, which means that's a total of 42 days. 21 plus 21 days, that's 42 days. She lost 46 pounds in 42 days on my plant-based metabolic weight loss plan. Who wants to stop waiting? Who wants to stop waiting? Come on, you deserve it. The key to losing weight internally is this feeling, is this attitude that I'm no longer going to tolerate remaining overweight. You heard Dr. Furman. This is not just a cosmetic issue. This is a metabolic disease. This is a metabolic disorder. We gotta start eating for metabolic health. And we can. It's not difficult. Plant-based food is delicious. It's not just salads. People have this misconception. If you say plant-based, they think of a salad. Eating like a rabbit. Well, my rebuttal when people always would say, you eat like a rabbit, I said, well, I rarely see any overweight rabbits, and rabbits can jump. And I like to jump. So you call it what you want. But the reality of it is, going plant-based isn't just about eating salads. Going plant-based opens you up to the raw aspect of going plant-based. And I don't just mean raw salads, raw vegetables, green leafy. It's important to eat green leafy vegetables at a high level. Leafy greens and colorful vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, are the most powerful weight loss foods. Even mushrooms and onions play their role in weight loss, even berries. So what happens is you're starting to get in the habit of training your metabolism, training your cells, training your mitochondria. You have to start training your hormones. Your meals must train your hormones. Your meals must take away chronic inflammation. Your meals must start to restore and replenish the healthy gut flora, which in turn boosts your immune system so that you're not vulnerable to the coronavirus. So here's my quick spiel on the coronavirus. For all year, the media has focused on the incidences of infection, like the rate at which people are being infected by the coronavirus, and they still do. After the election, now they're back on the coronavirus, the incidences, the second wave, and the death rate, right? So the news media has focused on the incidences of coronavirus cases and deaths. But what they have been very quiet and mute on is the other side. What's the other side? Pull it up. Do some research. I want you to Google search the recovery rate. Guess what the recovery rate is for those infected by the coronavirus who survive? Guess what the recovery rate is? 97 to 99% recovery rate. In other words, 97 to 99% of the people whose bodies have been exposed to the coronavirus, they recover. That's a fact. You're not going to hear it on the news because there's a vaccine agenda. I'm not going to say any more on that. So these are some serious times. Like, it's bigger than weight loss. This is like making your biology COVID-19 proof, because the beautiful thing about adopting a whole foods plant-based diet is because here's what's so powerful about it from an immune standpoint. You now arm and fortify your immune system because the evidence is very clear and conclusive that plant-based foods have molecules and compounds that boost the immune system. Now understand something. Natural immunity is God-given. Natural immunity is God-given. A vaccine, this COVID, the different COVID-19 vaccines that they're fast-tracking, the FDA is fast-tracking. They've never fast-tracked herbal supplements and white sugar and oil and salt is FDA approved, but herbal supplements are not FDA approved. And the FDA is going to fast track these COVID-19 vaccines. These vaccines are unproven because they haven't had the time to test their efficacy, their effectiveness, or safety, but they're being fast tracked. Why? So you need to do your research. But the most important thing to understand is this. 97 to 99% of those people who are whose bodies have been exposed to coronavirus. The coronavirus is now in their system, in their biology. They recover. Okay? 97 to 99%. This is not coming from me. This is coming from CNN. This is coming from any evidence-based. You can see the data. Do the research. So we now know, we've known 97 to 99% recovery rate. Why? Because God's biology has been equipped with natural immunity. Now, if you adopt a whole foods plant-based diet with guidance, I'll be glad to assist you and coach you and show you how to do it properly as a nutrition performance coach. 22 years experience putting people on a whole foods plant-based diet. For you to experience my plant-based metabolic weight loss plan, it's going to immediately shift your biology into fat loss mode, start to arrest and reduce the inflammation. So even if the coronavirus does hit your biology, you will easily recover because 97 to 99% of people do, despite the news flashes. So adopt a whole foods plant-based diet. If you're overweight, they're even saying, look at this article here from CNN, U.S. obesity epidemic could undermine effectiveness of a COVID-19 vaccine. That's coming from CNN. I'm going to read it again. U.S. obesity epidemic could undermine effectiveness of a COVID-19 vaccine. So this article talks about the fact that, more than 107 million American adults are obese. But then being obese and being overweight from a BMI and degree standpoint are different. They're both overweight. So are people who are overweight not vulnerable? Yes, they are. If you do your research on overweight and obese individuals who had the coronavirus, you'll see that they had the COVID-19 complications. So in other words, if you're overweight, the more fat on your body, if the coronavirus hits your body, you're exposed to it, guess what? You will have complications. That's what the research shows. That's what the studies indicate. So it's more dangerous now to remain overweight than it's ever been, because being overweight not only opens you up to metabolic syndrome conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, abnormal cholesterol levels or elevated blood serum triglycerides. And that leads to strokes and cancer and polycystic ovary syndrome in women, and heart disease and cancer. Yes, cancer too. But those are chronic diseases. But now, if you're overweight, you're susceptible to viral infections. And they even have known for some time that people who are overweight, especially obese, they have been more impacted by the flu, the influenza virus. So this article talks about how, obesity interferes with the immune response, and how if you're obese, those who have high percentages of body fat, and I would say overweight and obese, the COVID-19 vaccines that they're releasing may not be so effective for you, based off what they've learned with obesity populations as relates to the flu and flu vaccines. So, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. You are welcome. Yes, dropping those gems. Thank you so much, Chef TR. Yes, the people need knowledge, because knowledge, once applied, becomes health power in this context. So look, folks, if you have any comments, leave a comment, share it with people you care about. And my final word is, biological wealth is God-given. You don't have to tolerate remaining overweight, and get rid of fat before COVID-19 gets rid of you. I love you. Thank you for your attention and time. And if you found this valuable, share it with those you care about. God bless. Have a good night. Peace.